Welcome, my friends, to another edition of More Bad News, brought to you, as always, by Camel Cigarettes. Take the Camels Challenge, smoke Camels for 30 days, and see for yourself why more doctors smoke Camels. Yes, back in the day, this was real. We didn't make up facts back when the United States was the greatest nation on the face of the earth. It was a fact that more doctors smoked Camels, more lawyers smoked Camels, Mickey Mantle smoked Camels. Camels were America's first choice. So take the Camels Challenge and see for yourself what camels can do for you. Well, my friends, it's been another week of very bad news. I guess when you live on a planet that's absolutely hurtling towards extinction, you're not going to get much good news. Like the ice has stopped melting, the fires have stopped burning, the ocean is cooling, temperatures are dropping below 100 degrees in Phoenix. This afternoon, by the way, Phoenix is scheduled to reach a balmy 107 degrees. I mentioned already that I'm reading Jeff Goodell's The Heat Will Kill You First, Life and Death on a Scorched Planet, 2023. It's a brand new book. Apropos of the temperatures in Phoenix, he writes, nobody expected a 70-degree jump in the temperature during the heat wave in Antarctica in 2021, and yet it happened. Nobody expected 121 degrees in British Columbia, and yet it happened. Nobody expected 104 degrees in London, and yet it happened. As of 2022, the current record high in Phoenix is 122 degrees. Could it hit 135? How about 140? If not Phoenix, how about Pakistan? What are the limits? I talked to a number of scientists who all agreed on one thing. The more fossil fuel we burn, the higher these extremes can get. He points out that 70,000 people died in the heat wave in Europe in 2003, 55,000 people died in the heat wave in Russia in 2010, and 1 billion sea creatures died in the heat wave that hit the Pacific Northwest in 2021. So what will be the damage to the ocean life off the coast of Florida, where ocean temperatures are now hovering around 100, or hovering around 90, approaching 100? The answer, my friends, is blowing in the wind. And the wind is blowing hot. The Atlantic is turning into a hot tub. Well, the big news from last week, of course, is the loss of another paradise, this one in Hawaii, a community once thought to be the envy of the world, a place that people went to when you wanted to have a vacation in paradise. No cause for the fire has been determined, but experts believe that the power lines were knocked over by the storm, and that ignited the fire, which quickly spread and destroyed Lahaina, a coastal community of 13,000 in western Maui. The fires began 5 days ago. On August the 7th, you're living in paradise. And then on August the 8th, the fires begin. And by the end of the week, you've lost everything. This is how our extinction will proceed. No one can imagine their own community disappearing overnight. I remember my father-in-law, a Holocaust survivor. He used to carry around large amounts of cash in his pocket. And I asked him why. And he said, you never know, the banks could be closed and you need to flee. Astonished, I asked him, you really imagine that you'll need to flee the Bronx for Canada? He looked at me and he said, I lived in a city exactly like this one, and I had to flee and the banks were closed. If it happened once, it can happen again. That's when I realized I was the naive one. On Wednesday, the New York Times reported that the Atlantic nears tipping point. New research published on Tuesday of last week in the journal Nature Communications adds to a growing body of scientific work that describes how humankind's continued emissions of heat-trapping gases could set off climate tipping points, quote, which the reporter helpfully explains are rapid and hard-to-reverse changes in the environment. There is this widespread delusion that somehow we can fix the climate, and that tipping points are hard to reverse. They're not hard to reverse. They are impossible to reverse. Nothing at all is reversible. Cutting fossil fuel emissions will not reverse the damage that's been done. Our fate is entirely sealed. So this paper in Nature Communications predicts that the AMOC, the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Current, will shut down sometime between 2025 and 2095. They have a 95% certainty in this prediction. Until the most recent study, we were chill because the predictions were that the collapse of the AMOC would happen sometimes after 2100, which meant you didn't need to worry about it at all since it was so far away. Anything that's going to happen after 2100, you just don't have to bother about. If the AMOC is going to collapse sometime after 2025, then obviously the only thing we need to worry about is the 2024 elections. It seems like I'm spending a lot of time these days weaving a cocoon around myself, which as I go through this rapid metamorphosis, I'm beginning to appreciate how self-centered I am. I used to be engaged in education, politics, my religious community. None of that remains. As I watch my congregation on Zoom, I see everyone huddled around the bima with the reader in the center and two gabbis on either side, and they call up someone for an aliyah, and now you have four people all huddled around exchanging their rara loads. It all seems so strange to me that everyone is proceeding as if COVID were not still infecting people. And yet I read on my Facebook page this week about a young person who I held on my lap as a child, as an infant. And he writes, so apparently the heart rate spikes and panting after stairs or walking are concerning. My doctor measured my heart rate up to 162 after a quick stroll around the office. I've now had an EKG, an X-ray, blood draw that went way worse than usual, and I have an appointment for a temporary heart monitor for next week. This has been going on for months. I thought it was all the residual symptoms from my respiratory infection this spring. The sense of unreality is reinforced by Trump, MAGA Republicans, the 300 million people who are starving in the world, the 100 million plus refugees. So many millions are suffering from the loss of their homes, starvation, and violence. And here I see my friends going about their lives as if nothing was happening. When I was 13, I was first driven by religious passions, and later I was driven by sexual and political passions. Those were definite transitions, both in my circadian cycles and in my sense of self. I feel that I'm going through a change of similar magnitude. My problem is that I see clearly what is coming. The numbers of starving, displaced persons are going to explode exponentially, with great waves of starving migrants destabilizing even the most stable societies. In the end, this is going to be a struggle between the cruel and the compassionate. Well, my friends, that's it for this week. Hopefully I'll be back next week with more bad news. Until then, remember, time is running out. Take the Camels Challenge today and see for yourself what a difference this great American product can do for you.